He read the mute alien girl's collar, and suddenly his eyes filled with tears. Captain Declan Sprouse adjusted the output on his ship's transponder, making the Nomad's fortune appear as nothing more than a standard cargo hauler, limping through the Cygnus corridor. His muscular frame tensed as he monitored the scanner, waiting for the telltale signs of approaching raiders. The trap was set. "Come on, you bastard," he muttered, running a hand through his short brown hair. "Take the bait." The Nomad was actually a heavily modified military-grade vessel disguised as easy prey. After 15 years as a mercenary, Declan had developed a particular hatred for the Draxian pirates who terrorized this sector. They preyed on the weak, sold contraband, and trafficked in things Declan refused to think about. Today, he planned to reduce their numbers. His steel blue eyes narrowed as the scanner pinged. 3 small vessels approaching from the asteroid field, classic Draxian hunting formation. Declan allowed himself a tight smile as he activated the ship's defense systems while keeping them in stealth mode. "Unidentified cargo vessel," a gravelly voice crackled over the comm. "Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Declan sent back a panicked, stuttering response, playing the part of a frightened merchant. "Please don't hurt us. We're just transporting agricultural supplies." The pirates took the bait. Their lead ship latched onto his airlock with a metallic clang that reverberated through the hull. Declan moved silently to the docking bay, combat knife in one hand, pulse pistol in the other. His gray-black tactical suit absorbed the ambient light, making him nearly invisible in the shadows. The airlock hissed open. 4 Draxians stepped aboard, their scaled skin gleaming under the emergency lights. They carried disruptor rifles and moved with predatory confidence. "Search the cargo hold," their leader ordered. "Find the crew." Declan waited until they separated, then struck. The first pirate died with a knife between his vertebrae before he could make a sound. The second turned just in time to catch a pulse round through his eye socket. The remaining 2 reacted quickly, but Declan was faster. A brutal combination of military precision and street-fighting pragmatism that left both aliens dead in seconds. "Too damn easy," he muttered, wiping his blade clean. Declan boarded the pirate vessel, dispatching 2 more Draxians in the cramped corridors before securing their bridge. Standard procedure: download their nav data, check for valuable intel, then scuttle the ship. But something on their manifest caught his eye: an unregistered life form in the cargo hold. Weapon ready, Declan descended to the lower deck. The cargo hold stank of fuel and unwashed bodies. Crates of stolen goods lined the walls, and a small cage sat in the corner. Inside, huddled against the bars, was a child. Not human. Her skin was a pale green, and her silvery white hair fell in thick waves around her small shoulders. She wore an oversized orange jumpsuit that hung from her thin frame. When she looked up, her large almond-shaped eyes were filled with terror. "Hey there," Declan said, lowering his weapon and crouching to her level. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child pressed herself further into the corner, trembling. "Do you understand me? What's your name?" No response, just silent, watchful fear. Declan sighed and unlocked the cage. "I'm getting you out of here. Those pirates won't hurt anyone else." He reached in slowly, but the child flinched away. Declan withdrew his hand and considered his options. He couldn't leave her here, but forcing her out might traumatize her further. "I need to check the rest of the ship," he explained, knowing she probably didn't understand. "I'll come back for you." The remaining areas yielded nothing of interest, just stolen goods and contraband. When Declan returned to the cargo hold, he was surprised to find the child standing at the open cage door, watching him warily. "Ready to go?" he asked gently. She didn't respond, but when Declan turned to leave, she followed several paces behind, like a shadow. Back aboard the Nomad, Declan set the charges that would destroy the pirate vessel. As the explosions lit up the viewport, the child flinched but made no sound. "You're safe now," Declan told her, though her blank expression didn't change. He rummaged through a storage locker and found a small plush toy, a blue 6-legged creature he'd won in a card game on Proxima Station. He offered it to the child, who stared at it suspiciously before slowly reaching out. The moment her fingers touched the soft fabric, something changed in her eyes. She clutched the toy to her chest, and for the first time, her features softened. "That's better," Declan said with a small smile. "Let's get you cleaned up and find something to eat." As the Nomad pulled away from the debris field, Declan set course for Helios Station, the largest trading hub in the sector and the best place to find information about an unknown alien species. The child remained silent, but she stayed close to him now, the blue plush toy never leaving her grip. Declan had no idea what he'd gotten himself into, but one thing was certain: his life had just become considerably more complicated. Helios Station loomed ahead like a massive metal flower, its 5 petal-shaped docking arms extending from a central hub that glowed with the light of 1,000 windows. As the Nomad's fortune approached, Declan couldn't help but admire the engineering marvel. Built by humans but now home to dozens of alien species, a testament to humanity's diplomatic achievements in this sector. Nomad's fortune requesting docking clearance, Declan transmitted to station control. Clearance granted, Base 17, came the response. Customs inspection required upon arrival. Declan grimaced. Copy that. Control. He glanced at the alien child who sat cross-legged on the co-pilot's seat, still clutching her blue plush toy. She hadn't made a sound during their 3-day journey, but she'd started eating the food he offered and had stopped flinching whenever he moved near her. We're going to have to register you, he told her. That means dealing with station bureaucracy. Just stay close to me, okay? The girl's large eyes blinked in what might have been understanding. The Nomad slid smoothly into the docking bay, mechanical arms securing it in place. Declan helped the child into a clean jumpsuit he'd modified to fit her better, then slung a bag over his shoulder containing essentials and a few weapons he'd rather not declare to customs. Remember, he said, crouching to her level, you stick with me no matter what. This place can be dangerous if you don't know your way around. The customs process was tedious but uneventful. The bored human officer barely glanced at Declan's mercenary license before stamping it. What about the kid? The officer asked, eyeing the green-skinned child. Rescued her from pirates, Declan explained. I need to register her as a ward until I can find her people. The officer shrugged. Humanitarian exemption then. Fill out Form C7 at the administration office. Next. Declan led the child through the bustling main concourse, keeping a protective hand on her shoulder. Helios Station was a sensory overload, vendors hawking exotic goods, holographic advertisements floating in midair, and beings of all shapes and sizes hurrying about their business. The girl's eyes widened, taking everything in, but she remained pressed against Declan's leg. At the administration office, Declan completed the necessary paperwork to register the child as his temporary ward. When asked for her name, he hesitated, then wrote Jane Doe in the blank space. It felt wrong, but he had nothing else to call her. Their next stop was the Mercenary Guild, where Declan could pick up his messages and perhaps find information about the child's species. The guild hall was dimly lit and smelled of leather and gun oil, a familiar comfort after the chaos of the concourse. Sprouse, boomed a voice as they entered. Thought you'd be dead by now. A burly man with a thick beard and cybernetic eye approached, clapping Declan on the shoulder. Jackson, Declan nodded. Still ugly as ever, I see. Who's the little green bean? Jackson asked, gesturing to the child. Found her on a Draxian raider, trying to figure out where she belongs. Jackson knelt down, examining the child with his cybernetic eye. Looks Serenian to me, but they don't usually come this far into human space. Peaceful folks, mostly. Before Declan could respond, the guild hall's door slid open and conversations hushed. A tall figure entered, moving with predatory grace. The newcomer wore a sleek exosuit of midnight blue that accentuated a lean, powerful physique. Their face was obscured by a reflective helmet, but there was no mistaking the arsenal of weapons strapped to their body. Bounty hunter, Jackson whispered. High-end by the look of that gear. The stranger scanned the room, then moved directly toward Declan. The child pressed herself against his leg, trembling. Declan Sprouse? The voice from the helmet was modulated, impossible to identify. Who's asking? Declan replied, casually shifting his stance to access his concealed pistol, if needed. The bounty hunter tilted their head. I understand you recently had an encounter with Draxian pirates. News travels fast. I'm looking for something they stole. The helmet turned down toward the child. Something valuable. Declan felt the girl's grip tighten on his pant leg. Sorry, can't help you. Only found contraband and scrap. The bounty hunter reached slowly toward their wrist, activating a holographic display. A rotating image of the child appeared, alongside text in an alien script and a substantial number, presumably a bounty. The Vexari Consortium is offering 50,000 credits for her safe return, the hunter said. Double that if she's unharmed. Declan kept his expression neutral despite his surprise at the figure. What's so special about one kid? That's not your concern. The hunter extended a gloved hand. I can take her now. You'll receive payment within the standard 3 cycles. The child was now practically hiding behind Declan, her small body shaking. Whatever, or whoever this bounty hunter represented, the girl was terrified of them. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Declan said carefully. This child is registered as my ward under station law. If the consortium has a claim, they can file it through proper channels. The helmet remained fixed on him for several uncomfortable seconds. Very well, I'll return with the necessary documentation. The modulated voice carried a clear threat. Don't leave the station, Sprouse. After the bounty hunter departed, Jackson whistled low. You've stepped in it now, my friend. The Vexari don't mess around. Who are they? Declan asked, placing a reassuring hand on the child's shoulder. Biotech conglomerate, specialized in genetic engineering, neural programming, the kind of stuff that makes decent folks uncomfortable. Jackson glanced at the girl. If they want her this badly, she's either very valuable or very dangerous. Declan nodded grimly. I need a room. Somewhere secure off the main corridors. I know a place, Jackson said. And Sprouse, watch your back. The room Jackson arranged was small but secure, tucked away in a forgotten maintenance sector of Helios Station. Declan locked the door behind them and did a quick sweep for surveillance devices before allowing himself to relax. Home sweet home, he muttered, setting down their meager belongings. The child explored the space cautiously, still clutching her blue plush toy. The room contained a single bed, a small kitchenette, and a compact bathroom unit, sparse but functional. Declan had stayed in worse places. You take the bed, he told her, pulling out a bedroll from his pack. I'll sleep on the floor. After a simple meal of station rations, Declan helped the girl wash up and change into a clean shirt he'd purchased from a vendor. As he tucked her into bed, he noticed something glinting at her neck, a small pendant on a thin chain, partially hidden beneath her collar. What's this? He asked softly, gently lifting the pendant for a better look. The girl tensed but didn't pull away. The pendant was a small metallic disc, tarnished with age. On one side was an intricate symbol, a jagged mountain peak with 3 stars above it, surrounded by a circle of unfamiliar script. Declan's blood ran cold. He recognized that symbol from intelligence briefings during his military days. It belonged to the Krell Dominion, a reclusive alien empire from the outer reaches, infamous throughout the galaxy for their brutal slave trade and genetic experimentation on sentient species. Damn it, he whispered, his eyes suddenly burning with tears. The girl's silence, her fear, it all made sense now. She wasn't just a captive. She was a slave, likely bred or modified for some specific purpose. The child watched him with those large, solemn eyes, and Declan had to turn away to compose himself. No wonder she didn't speak. The Krell were known to surgically alter their slaves, sometimes removing vocal cords to prevent rebellion, or simply because they preferred silent servants. I won't let them take you back, he promised, his voice rough with emotion. You're safe now. A sudden pounding at the door made them both jump. Declan motioned for the girl to stay quiet and reached for his pistol. Station security. Open up, Sprouse! Declan peered through the door's security feed. 4 officers stood outside, accompanied by the bounty hunter from earlier. One of the officers held up a datapad. We have a warrant for the alien child in your custody, the lead officer announced. Open the door immediately. That was fast, Declan muttered. The bounty hunter must have considerable influence or deep pockets. Give me a minute, he called out, mind racing. He quickly gathered their essential belongings into his pack. We need to go, he whispered to the girl, who was already scrambling out of bed, clutching her toy. Declan moved to the bathroom and pried open the maintenance panel he'd spotted earlier, a standard feature in station architecture, providing access to the utility corridors that ran between sections. It would be a tight fit for him, but the child could move easily. Sprouse! Final warning! The door began to spark as they started cutting through the lock. Declan lifted the girl and helped her into the narrow passage. Crawl straight ahead until you reach a junction, then wait for me, he instructed. Just as the door burst open, Declan squeezed into the passage and pulled the panel shut behind him. He heard shouts and curses as the security team realized they'd escaped. The maintenance tunnel was cramped and dusty, forcing Declan to crawl on his elbows. Pipes and conduits lined the walls, carrying power, water, and data throughout the station. After several minutes of uncomfortable progress, he reached the child, who waited obediently at a four-way junction. "Good job," he whispered, checking his handheld scanner. "This way." They continued through the labyrinth of service tunnels, Declan navigating by the station schematics he'd downloaded years ago. Always good to know escape routes. Their goal was the lower docking bay, where he hoped to find transport off the station. As they approached another junction, Declan heard movement ahead. He signaled for the girl to stop and drew his pistol. The footsteps grew closer, then stopped. "I know you're there," a melodic female voice called softly. "I'm not with them." Declan remained silent, weapon ready. "The Vexari have locked down all official exits," the voice continued, "but I can help you escape." "Show yourself," Declan demanded. A figure emerged from the shadows of the connecting tunnel. Even in the dim emergency lighting, her beauty was striking. Her skin was a deeper shade of green than the child's, with an iridescent quality that caught the light. Her eyes were a vivid violet, and her long hair, the color of the night sky, was pulled back in an intricate braid. She wore a form-fitting utility suit that accentuated her graceful figure. "My name is Lanaya," she said, her gaze moving from Declan to the child. "I've been tracking the Vexari bounty hunter." The girl suddenly moved forward, reaching toward the woman with unexpected eagerness. Lanaya knelt and touched her forehead to the child's in what appeared to be a cultural greeting. "You recognize one of your own kind," Lanaya murmured, smiling gently. "You're Cyrenian?" Declan asked, lowering his weapon slightly. "Yes, as is she." Lanaya's expression darkened as she noticed the pendant around the child's neck. "May I?" Declan nodded and Lanaya carefully examined the pendant, her delicate fingers tracing the symbol. "Krell slavers," she spat, her melodic voice hardening. "I suspected as much when I heard about a Cyrenian child with the Vexari after her." "You know what the Vexari want with her?" Lanaya's violet eyes met his. "The same thing they wanted with me once. I escaped their labs 5 years ago." The intensity of her gaze sent an unexpected warmth through Declan's body. There was strength behind those eyes and something else, a shared purpose that created an immediate connection between them. "I have a ship docked in Maintenance Bay 6, Lanaya continued. "If we hurry, we can be gone before they expand their search to the service areas." Declan hesitated only briefly. His instincts, honed through years of survival, told him to trust her. "Lead the way," he said. As they moved through the tunnels, Lanaya explained in hushed tones that the Vexari Consortium had been working with Krell slavers for decades, using captives for genetic research. The child, like many Cyrenian children, had likely been selected for her species' natural telepathic abilities. "They're trying to weaponize our gifts," Lanaya said bitterly. "Turn us into living spy technology." The way she moved, fluid and graceful even in the cramped space, captivated Declan. Despite their dire circumstances, he found himself increasingly aware of her proximity, the subtle fragrance of her skin, like exotic flowers and spice. When their hands accidentally brushed as they helped the child through a narrow section, an electric current seemed to pass between them. Lanaya's violet eyes widened slightly, suggesting she felt it too. "Your species is remarkably resilient," she said softly. "Most would have abandoned the child to save themselves." "That's not how humans operate," Declan replied. "At least not the ones worth knowing." Her lips curved in a smile that made his pulse quicken. Perhaps there is much our peoples could learn from each other. The implication in her tone was unmistakable, and Declan found himself returning her smile with one of his own. "I think you might be right about that." Lanaya's ship, the Starlight Whisper, was a sleek vessel with elegant curves that reminded Declan of ancient Earth sailing ships. Unlike the utilitarian design of human spacecraft, Cyrenian vessels emphasize beauty alongside function, a cultural difference that fascinated him. "She's beautiful," Declan commented as they approached through the maintenance bay. "Thank you," Lanaya replied with a hint of pride. "She may not look imposing, but she's faster than most military craft." They boarded quickly, Lanaya's slender fingers dancing across the access panel. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with organic-looking curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own soft light. "Prepare for departure," Lanaya announced, sliding into the pilot's seat. "Station security will detect an unauthorized launch." Declan secured the child in a passenger seat, then took the co-pilot position. "Where are we headed?" "Terrace Outpost. It's a human settlement on the edge of regulated space." Lanaya's hands moved gracefully over the controls. "There's a doctor there, a human who specializes in alien physiology. He can help us." The Whisper detached from the docking clamps and glided away from Helios Station with barely a tremor. As they accelerated, station security hailed them, demanding their return. Lanaya ignored the transmission and engaged the ship's stealth systems. "They'll send pursuit craft," Declan warned. "Let them try to catch us," Lanaya replied with a confident smile that sent an unexpected warmth through his chest. Once they were safely away from the station and on course for Terrace, Lanaya showed them to the living quarters. The child, exhausted from their escape, fell asleep almost immediately in a small alcove bed that seemed designed for a child. "She needs a name," Lanaya said softly as they watched the girl sleep. "We can't keep calling her the child." Declan nodded. "What would be appropriate for a Cyrenian?" "Mira," Lanaya suggested after a moment. "It means one who sees beyond in our language." "Mira," Declan repeated, liking the sound of it. "It suits her." They retreated to the ship's small galley, where Lanaya prepared a beverage that smelled like cinnamon and tasted like honey and starlight. As they sat across from each other, Declan found himself studying her features, the delicate curve of her jaw, the subtle iridescence of her skin that shifted with her movements. "You're staring," Lanaya observed, her violet eyes meeting his with amusement. "Sorry," Declan said, not feeling sorry at all. "We don't have many Cyrenians in human space. And I've met few humans who would risk their lives for an alien child." Her gaze was appreciative, taking in his strong features and the confident set of his shoulders. "Your species has a reputation for being territorial and suspicious of outsiders." "Some of us are," Declan admitted, "but most humans believe in protecting the innocent, regardless of species." "A noble trait." Lanaya's fingers brushed against his as she reached for her cup, lingering just a moment longer than necessary. "Among my people, such protective instincts are highly valued." The air between them seemed to charge with electricity. Declan found himself leaning closer, drawn by something primal and undeniable. "There's something you should know," Lanaya said, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. "Cyrenians are mildly telepathic. We can sense emotions, especially strong ones." "So you know what I'm feeling right now?" Declan asked, suddenly self-conscious. Her lips curved into a smile that made his heart race. "Yes, and I find it quite flattering." Their conversation shifted to the immediate problem, Mira's safety. During their escape, Lanaya had scanned the child and detected a subdermal tracking implant near her shoulder blade. "The Vexari can follow us anywhere while that's active," she explained. "Dr. Keller on Terrace can remove it safely." "How long until we reach the outpost?" 18 hours. We should rest while we can." The Whisper had only one adult sleeping chamber besides a small alcove where Mira slept. Lanaya showed Declan to the room, which featured a bed that seemed to float above the floor. "You can take this space," she offered. "I'll rest in the pilot's chair." "I can't take your bed," Declan protested. "Then we share," Lanaya said simply. "It's large enough for two, and my people don't have the same inhibitions as humans seem to." The cultural difference caught Declan off guard. "That's very pragmatic." Lanaya laughed, a musical sound that made something stir inside him. "Is that what you call it? Pragmatism?" Later, as they lay side by side in the dim light of the sleeping chamber, Declan became acutely aware of Lanaya's presence. The gentle rhythm of her breathing, the subtle fragrance of her skin, the warmth radiating from her body. "Your heart rate has increased," Lanaya observed quietly. "Are you uncomfortable?" "Not uncomfortable," Declan admitted. "Just aware." She turned to face him, her violet eyes luminous in the darkness. "Humans are fascinating creatures, so physically strong, yet so restrained by invisible boundaries. And Cyrenians? We believe that connection, physical, emotional, spiritual, is the essence of life." Her hand moved to rest lightly on his chest, feeling his heartbeat. When two beings are drawn to each other, we consider it a gift to be cherished, not resisted. The touch of her hand sent waves of heat through his body. Declan found himself reaching for her, his fingers tracing the delicate contours of her face. "No invisible boundaries?" he asked, his voice rough with desire. "None," she whispered, moving closer until their bodies touched. "Only mutual respect and consent." What followed was a revelation, a joining of not just bodies but minds, as Lanaya's telepathic nature created a feedback loop of sensation and emotion that transcended Declan's previous experiences. Their cultural differences became a source of discovery rather than division. Each moment a new exploration of what it meant to connect across the boundaries of species. Afterward, as they lay entwined, Declan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. Lanaya's head rested on his chest, her midnight blue hair spilling across his skin. "Your species continues to surprise me," she murmured, tracing patterns on his shoulder. "How so?" "Such capacity for tenderness, despite your strength." Her violet eyes met his. "The Krell teach their slaves that humans are violent conquerors, interested only in domination. Yet here you are, risking everything to protect a child not of your kind." Declan thought about humanity's complicated history, the darkness and the light that defined his species. "We're capable of great cruelty," he admitted, "but also great compassion. I like to think the latter defines us more than the former." Lanaya smiled, a sight that made his heart skip. "Perhaps that is why the Krell fear your kind so much." They drifted to sleep in each other's arms, finding sanctuary in their unexpected connection, while the starlight whisper carried them toward Terrace Outpost and whatever challenges awaited them there. Terrace Outpost clung to the edge of a barren moon, its domed habitats and angular structures a testament to human ingenuity in hostile environments. Unlike the gleaming elegance of Helios Station, Terrace was rugged and utilitarian, a frontier settlement where rules bent easily and questions rarely followed credits. The Starlight Whisper docked at a small private bay on the outpost's southern quadrant. Lanaya had contacted Dr. Keller during their approach, and he'd arranged discreet entry away from the main customs checkpoints. "Stay alert," Declan warned as they disembarked. "Terrace may be a human settlement, but the Vexari have informants everywhere." Lanaya nodded, adjusting the hood that concealed her distinctive features. Mira walked between them, one small hand in Declan's, the other clutching her blue plush toy. The child seemed more at ease with Lanaya's presence, occasionally glancing up at the woman with what might have been recognition. Dr. Elias Keller's clinic occupied the basement level of what had once been a mining administration building. The sign outside simply read, "Xenophysiology" in faded letters. A security scanner swept over them as they approached the entrance, followed by the soft click of a lock disengaging. The door slid open to reveal a tall, lanky human with a shock of white hair and piercing gray eyes behind old-fashioned spectacles. His weathered face broke into a smile when he saw them. "Declan Sprouse," he said warmly. "Still finding trouble in the darkest corners of the galaxy, I see." "Good to see you too, Doc," Declan replied, clasping the older man's hand. "And these must be your companions." Keller's gaze moved to Lanaya, then settled on Mira. His expression softened. "Come in quickly. We shouldn't linger in doorways." The clinic was surprisingly well equipped for such a remote location. Advanced medical technology sat alongside antique books and curious artifacts from a dozen worlds. Keller led them through to a private examination room, securing the door behind them. "Lanaya explained the situation during your approach," he said, kneeling to Mira's level. "Hello, little one. I'm going to help you if that's all right." Mira regarded him solemnly, then looked to Lanaya and Declan for reassurance. "Dr. Keller is a friend," Lanaya told her gently. "He's going to take away the thing that hurts you." The examination proceeded with careful efficiency. Keller's manner with Mira was patient and kind, explaining each step before he took it. When he located the tracking device beneath her skin, his expression darkened. "Barbaric," he muttered. "This isn't just a tracker. It's designed to cause pain if she strays too far from her assigned handler." Declan felt a surge of anger. "Can you remove it?" "Yes, but I'll need to sedate her." Keller prepared a child-sized mask connected to an anesthetic unit. "This will help you sleep, little one. When you wake up, the bad thing will be gone." To everyone's surprise, Mira allowed the procedure without resistance. As she drifted to sleep, Keller got to work, his movements precise and confident. "I've treated former slaves before," he told them as he worked, "but the Krell's methods are particularly insidious. They combine physical control with psychological conditioning." "Is that why she doesn't speak?" Declan asked. Keller nodded grimly. "Likely, though I'll need to run a full scan to determine if there's physical damage to her vocal cords." While the doctor worked, Declan and Lanaya waited in an adjoining room. The tension of their journey and the uncertainty of what lay ahead created a strange intimacy between them. Lanaya stood by a viewport, the artificial moonlight casting blue shadows across her features. "You're worried," she observed without turning. Declan moved to stand beside her. "Aren't you?" "Yes, but differently." She turned to face him, her violet eyes searching his. "You humans carry your concerns like physical weights. I can feel yours pressing down on you." "One of the downsides of not being telepathic," Declan said with a wry smile, "we can't share the burden." Lanaya's hand found his, her touch sending warmth up his arm. "There are other ways to share burdens." The air between them charged with the same electricity they'd experienced on the ship. Declan found himself drawing her closer, one hand sliding to the small of her back. "Is this one of those cultural differences we should explore further?" he asked, his voice low. Her lips curved into a smile that made his pulse quicken. "For research purposes, of course." Their kiss was both familiar and entirely new, a continuation of what they'd begun on the ship, yet deepened by the dangers they'd faced together. Declan lost himself in the sensation, in the subtle taste of her that reminded him of exotic spices and something indefinably alien, yet intoxicating. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Lanaya's eyes had darkened to a deeper violet. "Your species continues to impress me," she murmured. Before Declan could respond, the door slid open. Dr. Keller stood there, his expression grave. "You need to see this," he said simply. In the examination room, Mira slept peacefully, a small bandage on her shoulder where the tracking device had been removed. Keller directed their attention to a holographic display showing complex genetic sequences. "I ran a full biological scan while removing the tracker," he explained. "Standard procedure with unknown physiology. What I found..." He shook his head. "It's unprecedented." "What is it?" Lanaya asked, her voice tense. "Her DNA has been extensively modified." Keller manipulated the display, highlighting specific sequences. "Here and here, these are engineered telepathic amplifiers. And this." He pointed to another section. "This is a dormant sequence I've never seen before." "What does it mean?" Declan demanded. "It means she's not just a slave. She's a prototype." Keller's eyes were troubled behind his spectacles. "The Krell and Vexari are creating something new, a being with potentially unlimited telepathic abilities." "A weapon," Lanaya whispered, her hand instinctively moving to Mira's sleeping form. "Or a key," Keller countered. "These modifications could allow her to connect with and potentially control any telepathic network, including, I suspect, the neural control systems the Krell use on their slave populations." The implications hit Declan like a physical blow. They could free the slaves. "Or control them more completely," Keller warned. "It depends on who wields this power." Lanaya's eyes met Declan's across Mira's sleeping form. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a shared resolve that transcended their different species and backgrounds. "There's more," Keller said, his voice dropping lower. "The pendant she wears, it's not just a slave marker. It contains a data crystal with coordinates and access codes to a Krell breeding facility. That's why the Vexari want her back so badly. She's not just carrying modified genes, she's carrying the key to their entire operation." Declan looked down at the sleeping child, so vulnerable, yet bearing such a terrible burden. His hand found Lanaya's across the examination table, their fingers intertwining. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly. "We protect her," Lanaya replied without hesitation. "And we use what we've learned to stop them." Keller nodded grimly. "I have contacts in the Human Defense Coalition. They've been gathering intelligence on the Krell for years, looking for a way to shut down their slave operations. This could be the breakthrough they've been waiting for." As if sensing their discussion, Mira stirred slightly in her sleep, her small fingers tightening around her plush toy. The sight strengthened Declan's resolve. Whatever came next, whatever dangers they faced, he would not let this child become a pawn in the Krell's cruel game. They left Dr. Keller's clinic through a service tunnel that connected to Terrace Outpost's maintenance level. The doctor had provided them with updated credentials, medical supplies for Mira, and the coordinates extracted from her pendant's data crystal. The breeding facility is in the Cygnus Rift, Declan said, studying the nav data on his portable scanner. Heavily shielded from long-range sensors. No wonder the Coalition never found it. It's where I was created, Lanaya revealed quietly as they walked. I recognize the coordinates. Declan glanced at her, seeing new depths in her violet eyes. You never mentioned that. Some memories are best kept buried. Her gaze dropped to Mira, who walked between them, still clutching her blue plush toy. Until they can no longer be ignored. They emerged near the private docking bay, where the Starlight Whisper waited. The outpost's artificial night cycle had begun, casting long shadows across the landing pad. Declan felt a prickle at the back of his neck, the familiar sensation of being watched. Something's wrong, he murmured, drawing his sidearm. Lanaya, get Mira to the ship. Before they could move, a sleek black shuttle descended from above, blocking their path to the Whisper. Its side hatch slid open to reveal the midnight blue exosuit of the Vexari bounty hunter. Impressive persistence, Sprouse, came the modulated voice. But this ends now. 4 armored figures flanked the hunter, weapons trained on them. Declan pushed Mira behind him, shielding her with his body. How did you find us? He demanded. The hunter tapped the side of their helmet. The child's genetic signature is unique. Once we calibrated our scanners, it was only a matter of time. She's not property, Lanaya said, her voice cold with fury. She's a child. She is Vexari intellectual property worth millions, the hunter corrected. And you, Specimen L7, are a fugitive who stole company assets. Declan felt Mira trembling against his leg. Her small hand clutched his pant leg with surprising strength. Last chance, the hunter said. Surrender the child, and perhaps we'll be merciful. Not happening, Declan replied, mentally calculating their odds. 5 against 2, with Mira to protect. Not good. The hunter sighed. Regrettable, but predictable. They raised a hand, signaling their team. Take them. Kill the human if necessary, but the Cyrenians must be captured alive. As the armored figures advanced, something unexpected happened. Mira stepped out from behind Declan, her small face set in determination. She raised her hand toward the bounty hunters, and a visible wave of energy pulsed from her fingertips. The nearest hunter staggered, clutching their helmet. What the? Another pulse, stronger this time. 2 more hunters dropped to their knees, their weapons clattering to the ground. Mira's eyes had taken on an eerie glow, and her silver-white hair floated around her head as if suspended in water. Her abilities, Lanaya gasped. They're awakening. The lead hunter fired a stun blast that Declan barely deflected with his armored forearm. The distraction was enough for one of the remaining hunters to lunge forward, grabbing Mira's arm. The child's reaction was immediate and terrifying. A telepathic scream tore through Declan's mind. Raw fear and rage amplified 1,000-fold. He saw the hunter who'd grabbed her collapse, blood seeping from beneath their helmet. Mira! Lanaya called, rushing forward. Focus on my voice. You're safe. The telepathic storm subsided as Mira turned toward Lanaya's voice. The momentary calm gave Declan the opening he needed. He fired 3 precise shots, disabling the remaining hunter's weapons. The lead hunter, realizing the situation, had turned back toward their shuttle. This isn't over, Sprouse. The Vexari don't abandon valuable assets. She's not an asset, Declan growled. She's under my protection now. As the shuttle lifted off, Lanaya gathered the exhausted child in her arms. Mira's eyes had returned to normal, but she looked drained and frightened. We need to go, Declan urged, leading them to the Whisper. They'll be back with reinforcements. Once aboard, Lanaya settled Mira in her sleeping alcove. The child was already drifting into an exhausted slumber, the psychic outburst having depleted her energy. What just happened? Declan asked when Lanaya joined him in the cockpit. The dormant sequences Keller identified are activating, she explained, initiating the launch sequence. The stress triggered her abilities. Is she dangerous? Lanaya's hands paused over the controls. To our enemies, yes, but not to us. Her violet eyes met his. She trusts you, Declan. That's why she stepped forward to protect you. The Whisper lifted smoothly from the docking bay, accelerating away from Terrace Outpost. Once they were safely in open space, Lanaya set the coordinates for the Cygnus Rift. Are you sure about this? Declan asked. Going directly to the breeding facility is risky. It's our only option now, Lanaya replied. With Mira's abilities awakening, she needs stability, not a life on the run. The facility contains the master control systems for all Krell slave operations. If we can access it, we can potentially free thousands. Declan nodded, understanding the stakes. How long until we arrive? 12 hours at maximum speed. Lanaya engaged the drive, stars blurring outside the viewport. We should rest while we can. In the quiet of the ship's sleeping chamber, with Mira safely asleep in her alcove, Declan and Lanaya found themselves drawn together once more. The day's events, the danger, the revelations, the uncertainty of what lay ahead, created an urgency in their connection. Your courage today, Lanaya murmured as her fingers traced the contours of his face, was remarkable. Most beings would have abandoned us when faced with such odds. Not an option, Declan replied, drawing her closer. Not for me. Is that a human trait or just yours? Her body pressed against his, warm and inviting. Both, maybe. His hands found the curve of her waist. Humans can be stubborn when we care about something or someone. Their lips met in a kiss that carried the weight of their shared journey, the danger they'd faced, the bond they'd formed with Mira, the uncertain future that awaited them. There was a desperate edge to their passion now, a need to affirm life in the face of peril. Later, as they lay entwined, Lanaya's head resting on his chest, Declan found himself contemplating the strange path that had led him here. From solitary mercenary to protector of a child with extraordinary abilities and lover to a woman from another world. What are you thinking? Lanaya asked, her telepathic senses picking up his contemplative mood. That I never expected any of this when I set that trap for the pirates, he admitted, but I wouldn't change it. She smiled, a sight that still made his heart race. Fate has curious designs. Do Cyrenians believe in fate? We believe in connections, she replied, tracing patterns on his skin. That certain souls are drawn together for reasons beyond understanding. The ship's alert system chimed softly, indicating they were approaching the outer boundary of the Cygnus Rift. Reluctantly, they rose and dressed, preparing for what lay ahead. In the cockpit, Lanaya brought up the detailed scan of the breeding facility extracted from Mira's pendant. The structure was massive, a sprawling complex built into an asteroid, heavily fortified and guarded. The main control center is here, she pointed to a central chamber. It connects to all Krell slave operations throughout their territory. If we can access it, we can potentially disable the entire system. And free everyone like Mira, Declan finished. Yes, but it won't be easy. Lanaya's expression was grave. The facility is designed to prevent exactly what we're attempting. Declan checked his weapons and equipment. When has that ever stopped humanity from doing what's right? Lanaya's smile was both tender and admiring. Your species' confidence is either your greatest strength or your most charming delusion. I prefer to think of it as optimistic determination, he replied with a grin. As the Whisper approached the coordinates, they prepared for the most dangerous phase of their journey. The breeding facility loomed ahead, a dark monument to cruelty that they were determined to bring down, for Mira, for Lanaya, and for countless others suffering under Krell oppression. The Starlight Whisper approached the Krell breeding facility under stealth, its signature masked by the electromagnetic distortions of the Cygnus Rift. The facility itself was a monstrosity, a sprawling complex carved into a massive asteroid, bristling with defense systems and docking bays for Krell warships. There's a maintenance access point here, Lanaya indicated on the holographic display, used for supply deliveries. Security will be lighter. Declan nodded, checking his weapons one final time. And Mira? They both glanced at the child, who sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, her blue plush toy clutched to her chest. Since her abilities had awakened on Taris, she seemed more alert, more present, though still silent. She comes with us, Lanaya said firmly. The pendant's access codes are genetically keyed to her. We can't get into the control center without her. I don't like putting her in danger, Declan frowned. Neither do I. Lanaya's violet eyes met his. But leaving her alone on the ship could be worse if we're captured. The docking procedure was tense but successful. Using the codes from Mira's pendant, they bypassed the initial security protocols and entered the facility through a service corridor. The interior was cold and sterile, polished metal walls and harsh lighting that cast no shadows. "Stay close," Declan whispered to Mira, who nodded in understanding. They moved through the facility like ghosts, avoiding patrols and security sensors with Lanaya's intimate knowledge of Krell protocols. As they descended deeper, they began to hear sounds that made Declan's blood run cold. The muffled cries of children. A security door slid open, revealing a sight that stopped them in their tracks. The chamber beyond was enormous, with row upon row of transparent containment units. Inside each was a child, some Serenian like Mira, others from a dozen different species. All bore the same vacant expression, their small bodies connected to monitoring equipment. "My God," Declan breathed, his hand instinctively tightening around his weapon. Lanaya's face had gone pale, her composure cracking at the sight. "This is larger than when I was here. They've expanded." Mira stepped forward, her small hand reaching toward the nearest containment unit. Inside was a Cyrenian boy, perhaps a year older than her. As her fingers touched the transparent barrier, her eyes began to glow with that eerie light they'd witnessed on Terrace. "Mira," Lanaya cautioned, but the child seemed not to hear. A soft hum filled the air as Mira established some kind of telepathic connection. The boy in the containment unit stirred, his eyes opening, no longer vacant but alert and aware. Then another child awakened, and another, the effect spreading like ripples in a pond. "She's waking them up," Declan realized, "breaking their conditioning." "We need to move," Lanaya urged. "The control center is 3 levels down. If we can access the master systems, we can release them all at once." They pressed on, now with greater urgency. The facility had begun to stir. Alarms hadn't sounded yet, but it was only a matter of time before the Krell noticed something was wrong. The central control chamber was a circular room dominated by a massive computer core. As they approached the sealed entrance, Mira stepped forward without prompting, placing her small hand on the scanner. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. "Impressive," a familiar modulated voice greeted them from inside. "I almost admire your persistence." The Vexari bounty hunter stood at the control console, surrounded by Krell guards. Their reptilian features were impassive beneath their armor as they flanked the hunter. "How did you get here before us?" Declan demanded, positioning himself protectively in front of Mira. "I've had access to this facility for years," the hunter replied. "After all, I helped design it." With deliberate movements, the hunter reached up and removed their helmet. Declan couldn't hide his shock at what was revealed. A Vexari face with mottled purple skin, 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern, and a mouthful of needle-like teeth. "Commander Nexvar," the alien introduced itself with a mocking gesture. "Chief geneticist of the Vexari Consortium." "You're the one who created this abomination." Lanaya's voice was thick with disgust. "Created?" Nexvar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "I perfected it. These modified telepaths will become the perfect intelligence network for the Vexari Krell Alliance. We'll know the thoughts of every species in the galaxy before they even act." Declan felt a surge of revulsion. "You're experimenting on children." "We're ensuring our dominance," Nexvar corrected. "Humans have spread too far, too fast. Your species' unpredictability makes you dangerous. These telepaths will be our early warning system against human expansion." "That's not security," Declan spat. "That's tyranny." Nexvar's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "A matter of perspective. Now hand over the child, and perhaps I'll let you two live as test subjects rather than food for the Krell hatcheries." Before Declan could respond, Mira stepped forward, her eyes beginning to glow. Nexvar smiled coldly, revealing more teeth. "Ah, her abilities are awakening. Perfect timing." The alien held up a small device. "This neural inhibitor will—" The Vexari never finished the sentence. Mira's telepathic blast hit with such force that the Krell guards collapsed instantly, green blood seeping from their eyes and ears. Nexvar staggered but remained standing, protected by some kind of personal shield. "Impressive," the alien gasped, "but futile." Declan seized the moment, firing a precise shot that disabled Nexvar's shield generator. Lanaya lunged forward with unexpected speed, pinning the Vexari against the console. "Access the control systems," Lanaya called to Declan. "I'll handle this monster." Declan hurried to the main terminal, Mira at his side. The interface was alien, but with Mira's help, her small hand guiding his through the commands, he navigated to the master control protocols. "This will release all containment units and disable the neural suppressors," he confirmed, initiating the sequence. Throughout the facility, alarms began to blare as hundreds of containment units opened simultaneously. The sounds of confusion and panic echoed through the corridors as Krell guards found themselves facing awakened, angry telepaths. "You fools!" Nexavar snarled, struggling against Lanaya's grip. "You have no idea what you've unleashed. Those children aren't just telepaths, they're weapons. Without proper control, they'll tear this facility apart." As if confirming the alien's words, the facility shuddered. Emergency lights flashed as systems began to fail. "Mira!" Lanaya called urgently. "Can you reach them? Can you calm them?" The child closed her eyes, her face serene despite the chaos erupting around them. A wave of telepathic energy emanated from her. Not destructive like before, but soothing, organizing the chaos into purpose. Through the facility's monitoring systems, they watched in awe as the freed children began to move with coordinated precision, overwhelming the Krell guards and making their way toward the docking bays. "She's guiding them," Lanaya whispered in amazement, "showing them the way out." "Impossible," Nexvar hissed. "The level of telepathic coordination required." "Never underestimate what people can do when fighting for freedom," Declan said, unable to keep the pride from his voice, "especially when they have humanity on their side." They secured Nexvar with restraints and downloaded all the facility's data, evidence of the Krell Vexari operation that would be delivered to the Human Defense Coalition. As the facility began to destabilize around them, they made their way to the docking bay where the Whisper waited. The scene that greeted them was extraordinary. Dozens of small Krell shuttles being commandeered by the freed children, guided by telepathic instructions from Mira. The oldest ones, perhaps 10 or 11 years old, were helping the younger ones board. "We need to lead them out," Lanaya said, rushing toward the Whisper. "They'll follow Mira's telepathic beacon." As they prepared for departure, Mira suddenly froze, her eyes wide. She turned and ran back toward the facility entrance. "Mira!" Declan called, chasing after her. The child stopped before a small alcove they had missed, reaching inside to pull out another child, a tiny Cyrenian girl, even younger than Mira, trembling with fear. Around her neck was a pendant identical to Mira's. Another prototype, Lanaya realized as they hurried back to the ship. Once aboard the Whisper, they launched into space, leading a ragtag fleet of stolen Krell shuttles. Behind them, the breeding facility erupted in a series of explosions, the result of freed children sabotaging its power core before escaping. "Where will they go?" Declan asked as they cleared the Cygnus Rift, the shuttles following in formation. "I've transmitted coordinates for a Human Defense Coalition outpost," Lanaya replied. "They'll be safe there until they can be reunited with their people." In the co-pilot seat, Mira sat with the younger Cyrenian girl in her lap. To their astonishment, she looked up at Declan and spoke her first words, "Thank you." Her voice was soft but clear, untouched by the trauma she had endured. Declan felt his eyes fill with tears once more. Not of sorrow this time, but of joy. 3 months later, on a peaceful colony world at the edge of human space, Declan stood on the porch of a modest home, watching Lanaya teach Mira and several other rescued Cyrenian children in the garden. The Human Defense Coalition had established a sanctuary here for the freed children, with Lanaya as their caretaker and Declan as head of security. Nexvar was in custody, facing trial for crimes against sentient beings. The evidence they'd gathered had led to joint human-alien operations against remaining Krell slave facilities throughout the sector. The Krell Dominion itself had fractured, its leadership in disarray, and the Vexari Consortium had been sanctioned by the Galactic Council. "She's speaking more every day," Lanaya observed as she joined him on the porch, her hand finding his. "They all are. And the nightmares?" "Less frequent." She leaned against him, her warmth a comfort he'd come to cherish. "They're healing, Declan. We all are." He pulled her closer, marveling at how his life had changed since that day he'd set a trap for pirates and found a silent, frightened child instead. What had begun as a simple rescue had become something far greater, Not just the liberation of hundreds of children, but the beginning of a new understanding between humans and the peaceful alien species of the galaxy. "What are you thinking?" Lanaya asked, her telepathic senses picking up his contemplative mood. "That sometimes the greatest journeys start with the smallest steps," he replied, watching Mira laugh as she played with the other children, her blue plush toy never far from her side. "Or with a little girl who couldn't speak but had more to say than any of us." Lanaya smiled, her violet eyes reflecting the setting sun. "And sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who simply refuse to look away when they see suffering." As night fell, they gathered the children for dinner in the large communal hall, humans and friendly aliens together, sharing food and stories. A family forged not by blood, but by choice and circumstance. Declan looked around the table at these lives he and Lanaya had helped save, and knew with absolute certainty that he had found his purpose. Later that night, as they lay together in the quiet darkness of their room, Lanaya traced the contours of his face with gentle fingers. "My people have a saying," she murmured. "The universe brings together those who are meant to heal each other." Declan caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. "I think your people might be onto something there." Their lips met in a tender kiss that spoke of promises kept and futures shared. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, they would face them together. A human man and a Cyrenian woman who had found in each other the strength to change worlds. The pendant that had once marked Mira as a slave now hung in a display case in their home, a reminder of the journey that had brought them together and the evil they had overcome. But more importantly, it was a symbol of humanity's enduring spirit, the unwavering commitment to freedom and justice that had saved not just one silent child, but hundreds of others like her. In the face of alien cruelty, human compassion had prevailed, and in that victory, a new family was born.